All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Ramblin Ralph, aka Ralph Velez Jr. I am an official ring announcer for Floyd Mayweather and the Money Team out in Las Vegas. I also work for Showtime and Premier Boxing Champions, Extreme Kumite, and Iron Boy Promotions here in Phoenix. So, lot of stuff going on.
Now, you got to ask this question. How do you get started in this thing? You got the voice, but how do you translate the voice into doing that?
Oh man, you know what? It was, my story's pretty crazy. As a kid, I always wanted to be involved. My family is a boxing family, so we had a lot of fight night barbecues around the television.
Gotcha.
We didn't really miss one. And as a kid, I grew up watching wrestling, the WWF back then, what it was called. And there was this little guy. His name was Howard Finkel. Just a little guy. And but that man has such an amazing voice. And I was like, man, this guy can make 90,000 people go crazy in the Pontiac Silverdome. That is the coolest job ever. I wanted.
Yep.
So as a kid, I get done playing my Little League games, and I'd always go by the microphone at the big boy games, and I'd always see who's doing it, and sometimes nobody would be doing it. So I'd always ask, and they're like, this little punk 7-year-old, get out of here. You're just causing trouble. And one day I just asked the guy that was doing it, can I announce a name? That's my cousin playing. He said, you want to announce your cousin? I said, yeah, I want to announce him. I announced him. The guy's like, man, you're actually pretty good. Because, already at that time, I'm already into wrestling. I'm already watching it. I'm already mimicking him. I have my wrestling dolls at home. I'm already doing it. In my mind, out loud, I'm already doing it at 7. So I try to sound like Howard Finkel at the baseball field. And it worked. And I ended up over the years just announcing Little League games. I announced Little League games up until I was like 20 years old. And as time goes by, it's just planning, practicing, and just telling yourself, you know what, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but if I get the chance, I've already got 15 years under my belt practicing in my home. I would take the camcorder, brother, that my grandfather purchased. It was that old, that news
old
channel.
school big box one, yeah.
The one where you had to put the VHS tapes in, and I would buy that for a weekend, and I'd go and I'd record myself announcing the dolls, and I was a big wrestling fanatic, and it took me till I was 32 years old to finally get my first opportunity. I had a friend here that was boxing in Phoenix, and I always tell everybody that when your time comes, you're going to know that it's the opportunity to take
Right.
it. I saw it in the sports page when we actually were getting newspaper delivered to our homes. And I saw that my friend was going to be fighting. It was a promotion out in Canada. And I said, man, I have to do this. I'm going to do this card no matter what. So I called the promoter in Canada. I'm like, look, I'm doing all the cards here in Arizona, which was a complete lie. I even name dropped Muhammad Ali because we have the fight night charity event for Muhammad Ali every year in Phoenix. And I said, yeah, I've been announcing all of those. I do everything here, all the cards in Arizona. At that time, there wasn't really a lot of stuff going on, so
Right.
I thought I could get away with it.
And you couldn't check on it either, right?
I couldn't check on it. You could check on it, but who the hell was going to do that and go
Right.
card every 3 years? And he says, okay, well, send me a demo. Well, at that time, I'd already bootlegged like, Adobe Audition, Fruit Loops, like all these little apps that you can, that little wannabe and upcoming rappers were using.
Right.
On the
Right.
version. There wasn't no Pro Tools. It was like the $10 version of Pro Tools. So
Right.
I got a hold of a copy of that. I made my demo, put some crowd noise in the back. I just wanted to do it, man. I was going to stop at nothing to do that card. And the wife of the promoter called me back. She says, I don't care what my husband says. I like it. You're going to do the show and you're on. So it was supposed to be a club show, man. It was supposed to be a show that was only like 1,000 people. He called me back like 2 weeks before the card and said, hey, he said, I got good news and bad news. And right when he said that, man, my heart had already dropped because I figured, man, the card got canceled. He says, well, we're not doing the club card anymore. And I was just heartbroken, man. I said, well, I appreciate you, giving me the opportunity. He says, well, you didn't let me finish. He says, the good news is we're doing an ESPN Friday Night Fights.
Oh, yeah.
I said, well, of course, I'm not going to be able to do that. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I appreciate you thinking of me. You're probably using Thomas Triber or Jimmy Lennon or Diamante, somebody.
Somebody, right.
And he said, no, he says, we're Canadians. We keep our word. you're going to do the show. So I had basically fit my way and backdoored
The
my
Friday
way
Night
into
Fights.
ESPN Friday Night Fights, my first show. So I wasn't scared though. I just said, okay, now you put your foot in your mouth. Now you got to just show up, man. Now, I prayed on it. I said, Lord, I said, if I'm supposed to be here, and this is what my calling is, then I got to get through the show. Somehow, some way, I got to get through the show. You like your podcast and whatever interviews you've done, sometimes they don't go your way. Sometimes,
Right.
There's a monkey wrench in it. The voice is bad. You're breaking up. Whatever the case may be, you got to find a way just to get through it and salvage whatever you have. And I just prayed on it, man. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never used a fob, but just help me get through it. And if I'm supposed to be here, show me. And right when I'm about to get in the ring for the first fight, the producer's like, look, he says, we just expanded to ESPN 3D and ESPN 3. He says, we're going to be showing all over South America, basically all over the world. We're going to go worldwide feed. So you got about 100 million eyes on you, man. Break a leg.
I needed that information, right?
So I'm like, man, I really need to hear that right now, And I just went in there, pretended like there was nobody there, pretended like I was on the Little League field, pretended like I was in my room with the wrestling dolls, and we got through it. We broke the record for views for ESPN Friday Night Fight, which still to this day will always be held because there's no more Friday Night Fights unless they come back. And it was amazing. And from there, I started doing local shows, started making a name for myself. And one of the local shows, one of Floyd Mayweather's fighters came down, and Bob Ware, the hand rapper and trainer of Floyd, and Uncle Roger, which was Floyd's uncle, came down. They heard me, and they got word back like, hey, man, this guy is pretty legit. He's got a lot of energy. He's a good dude. We need an announcer. Let's bring him in. It took me a whole year to get in there. And once I got in there, it's just been gravy ever since, man. So we've been 4.5 years with Floyd. Started doing some Showtime shows, some PBC shows, because they're involved with that. And it's been a tremendous blessing since then.
That's great, man. That is fantastic. Basically, you do what I do or what I did. It's like, I know what I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm doing. Let's do it.
Right? Let's do it, because, I mean, it's you're never going to know what you can do unless you just go for it, right? There is no playbook on this stuff. Everybody has their own style of doing it. Some are monotone, some are real chill. Some have a lot of energy, like me. I always wanted to be that in-game host in the arena type person to get the crowd going, and I use different parts of the structure, like a Jimmy Lennon, who's become a good friend of mine and a mentor, which is crazy to ever think that someone that you grew up watching in your underwear at 7 years old, in your living room, now you're friends with them, and now it gives you tips, and it's a blessing, but it's just still unbelievable that you wake up and you're like, hey, Jimmy's calling me. It's pretty crazy. Like, you just got to go for it. You got to be yourself, and they appreciate being human. They appreciate yourself. The fans understand that it's not an easy job, because you know as well as I do that anything that has to do with a podcast or an interview or live events, I mean, there's only one take. Like, we can go and I can say something, and if we're live somewhere, I can't ever take that back. So it is what it is, and we just got to do our best, and we just got to be ourselves and throw it against the wall, and hopefully it sticks.
Well, one of the things that you just brought up, especially with Jimmy Lennon, because he's so smooth and it looks effortless, and it kind of again what we do is there's more research and more that has to be done pre and post than probably what people think. Take us along that line of what the procedure is for getting ready for a card.
Well, I always say that the card is not final until the fighters walk into the ring, because literally things change like on the second, right? So I can prepare for a day and a half, 2 straight days of getting the order, looking at box rec, making sure their names are pronounced correctly. Because the number one thing for me is I hate when my name is mispronounced. My last name is Velez. It's only 5 letters, but it's mispronounced every single day, almost by every person that says it. And it gets disappointing, but I understand that they've never heard it, or it's just in front of them and they do the best they can. I have a few days to get prepared. So I don't want to butcher anybody's name. I don't want to butcher the city. Like, for example, Dominican Republic. A lot of announcers are scared to say La República Dominicana because it's very difficult. But I go for it. I go for it only because I want to be different. I don't want to be like the norm. It's got to be, hey man, I want to make the fighter. I want to say his city like his mother says his city, like his father or his uncle or his countrymen say his city and his country, and that's very important to me. So, you can go up and be organized and have every fight in order and line it up in order and staple it and just go in order, and all of a sudden they come up to you and say, hey, we're moving bout 3 to bout 5. Oh, the co-main event dropped. The guy wants more money. He's out of there. We're moving this to the main event. And you could be on television, and you have got to be able to literally have your pen, cross something out, fix the weight, fix a record,
and go
fix
like
the city,
that.
and you got to be able to go. And the Showtime cards, to be honest with you, I'm so blessed to be on there, and I'm so thankful. But they're very stressful because if there's a change, you have to be spot on right away. The red light's on. You got millions watching, and you've got to be on the ball. The club cards are cool because you get to interact with the crowd. You get to give out shirts and towels, and you get to do other stuff that you normally can't do on a Showtime card. So even though the Showtime cards are great, are a blessing, and they're great as far as the exposure, the club cards are awesome because I get to interact with the fans, bring kids into the ring, dance, give them cards, give away tickets, give shots out, acknowledge the people in the crowds. And sometimes on the Showtime cards, you just can't do it. So a lot of preparation. It's almost like you're cooking a 7-course meal. It takes you 5 hours to fix it and 10 minutes to eat it. And then you're like, damn, I spent all this time and it was 10 minutes and the food is gone. So it's almost like that. The preparation is before and during the show, it's the eating portion. You got to make sure you just hammer it out, and then the stress level goes away. If people tell you in this industry that they're not stressed out or they're not worried about getting things right, they're lying to you. Right. If you look at Jimmy Lennon, if you ever get a chance to he is doing his thing. He's practicing right on the money until the bell rings. He actually chews gum while he announces, which I think is he's been doing it for so long that he chews gum and just puts the gum on the side of his mouth and just goes to work, man. That guy's a legend, so I guess he can do it.
Well, you mentioned something that I think is very important as far as your preparation and what you're paying attention to and getting the names right and everything. You are a junior. Floyd Mayweather's a junior. Jimmy London's a junior. Some people, that's very important to add that. And some people, it's like, well, it's just part of my name, but don't worry about it. But you have to know that, because if you get it wrong, people get upset. I'm not a junior, but my brother's a junior, but he doesn't like being called a junior. So you have to understand how important that is, and that's part of doing your research.
Yeah, people are very finicky. They if they're born from a city, but they no longer live there, or they've lived, say, in Brooklyn for a year. They were born in Brooklyn. They only lived there for a year, but now they're in Staten Island, and the manager's like, yeah, he's from Staten Island, and you announce Staten Island in the weigh-in, the fighter will come up to you and be like, hey, bro, hey, I'm from Brooklyn, dude. I ain't from Staten Island. I'm from Brooklyn. Like, all right, your manager told me Staten Island. I'm just reading what's on the paper. Nah. Yep. Announce tomorrow, I need Brooklyn. And then you just, you go with it, you change it. But people are really, they take it personal. And that's why it's so important to me that you hit the accents on, like, Peña. It's not Peña, it's Peña. It's not the Dominican Republic, it's República Dominicana. And it's Mexico, and it's Mexico City. Like, it's just got to be done correctly, because that may be the only time they ever get to be on Showtime or get to be on a stream, worldwide stream. And they want that memory for the rest of their life. And they don't need somebody going in there butchering their name or saying it the wrong way. It's very offensive to some people.
Well, and like you mentioned, you were watching Jimmy London Jr. in your room, in your home, in your underwear, and you're getting involved in that. The next you could be out there, and if you're not doing your best and doing it the way that it should be done, they may never evolve into what you've done.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that for me, I always tell him that he changed my life. He has inspired me to be who I am. And that's why when I open up for him during the PBC cards that are Mayweather Promotion, it's a blessing because I tell him, I said, I watched you for many years, I said, you're my hero. I said, I appreciate you spending time with me, mentoring me, explaining how he does the process. I mean, we all have our certain styles. Some announcers will copy others. We have some announcers that are out there that are using Buffer style or, a Lennon style, and they sound like him. And I just want the structure. He's been around for a very long time. He sounds like his father. He uses the father style, which is okay. That's his dad. I mean, if my son were to get into it and it's working, I'm like,
Right.
son, you do what your pops did, and that's okay. But I just want his structure. I want to know exactly how he preps. I want to know what works for him, what didn't work for him, what promoters are great to him, who to stay away from. Because the industry has a lot of people that are in it for their best interests, unfortunately. And you just want to make sure that if you end up getting involved with them, you don't want to ruffle any feathers. You just do your job and get out of there. So
Right.
it's been a great blessing to be around him, and he's it's a benefit for sure.
Well, you mentioned something else that I think is important to our show and how we do things. We've been railing for the last few months about the lack of club cards or the lack of exposure for club cards. And you came right out and said they're more fun and they're more enjoyable because you're dealing with the public at large instead of it being a bunch of cameras and people over in Nicaragua that you're never going to meet.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about our matchmaker Kenny Craig. He started off being operations for Mayweather Promotions, and now he's actually doing the matchmaking as well. And he has made some tremendous fights on our club cards that could be main event pay-per-view fights. They're amazing. The crowds get into it. You got a lot of local fighters that normally wouldn't get to fight on another card.
Right.
They have their fans in the stands, and sometimes they just go crazy. And that as an announcer, when you're able to get that crowd hype and announce a local dude that's there that has his mother and his father and his aunts, his uncles in the crowd, and they're cheering, it's unbelievable, man. And sometimes you don't get that because, we were doing a showbox card. You got someone from out of town or from another country that doesn't have the fan base there.
Right.
And it's very important. The club cards are, like my friend Raging Babe, Michelle Rosado said, the bloodline of the sport. It is the lifeline. It is the main artery, because without those shows, you don't have your 20-0 guy fighting for the title on
Right.
Showtime. You don't have it. So it's very important.
And that's one thing we've been trying to get involved with. It's like, this is how we grow the sport. And it's great that we have the big fights and the pay-per-view things and all that, but those guys, like you said, have to come from somewhere. And I'd like to follow that path of those people because it makes a better story and also gets you more involved. Like you said, you're watching wrestling and you're watching stuff when you're 7 years old. I'm sitting on my dad's lap watching boxing, and like, who's that? Oh, well, I don't know. Just it's boxing. Just shut up and watch it, and learning what was going on, same thing with minor league baseball and whatnot. You have to have the grassroots in order to grow the sport. And I think they're doing a good job, but I think they can do a better job of that.
Yeah, and the thing of it right now is that, the money situation is another thing that people don't understand. Like, to put on a good club card, it's very expensive, even because to take Mayweather, for example, you're coming into Vegas fighting on a Mayweather card. The fans know that Floyd will be there. The fans know that you're going to have a lot of celebrities there. Regardless if it's a club card or not, the fighters will come out. It's Vegas. It's a Mayweather Promotions show, and they want to get paid. So it's hard to just bring somebody in, especially in Vegas, because the matchmakers there, they know that the commission is very structured as far as even matches. If you want to build a career at 2-0, 3-0, and you want to get matched up to some uneven fighters, that's the wrong city and state to do it in, because they don't allow it. So you have tremendous fights at that level, but it just costs. It costs a lot of money. So the promoters, even right now with this pandemic, I really hope that we figure something out for them, because I really feel bad for those fighters. I feel bad for those promoters. There's no way that you can make up for a $2,000 or $3,000 seat arena by doing a $5 or $6 pay-per-view. It's just not going to happen. Fans will say they'll support it, but at the end of the day, it becomes tough. You need to have a lot of people buy that in order for you to make up the 40 or 50 grand you got to spend, and that's on the low end. Sometimes these guys are asking tremendous amounts of money to be on a club card now too, because they know the money is there, and it's difficult. So I hope that the fighters understand that if they work with the promoters and they're able to do more club cards, they'll fight more. If the fans show up, they start supporting these fighters, they'll get a bigger fan base, in becomes more money, start making merchandise. I mean, I try to help my fighters as much as I can that I know that I see that are my friends now. Hey, man, maybe you should start doing a line. You're making all these shirts and you're buying them from a guy that's making these shirts and you're giving them away. You know,
Right.
make a small little website. Put your merchandise up 24/7.
Right.
Not only when you're fighting, have it year round. Make some socks. Do the headbands. Do whatever you got to do to make money outside the ring so that your career doesn't have to go into your 35 or 40 years old.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you have to keep fighting because these fighters, as you know, they have to commit their whole life to this sport. So the problem is that when they're 35 and say their career doesn't work out to exactly where they want it, what are you going to
You're
do now?
crapped out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
what are
have
you going
nothing
to
to
do
pick
now?
on.
What are
Right.
you going to do now as far as a second career? And it's very difficult. So being in this sport for on the back end of it for over 10 years now, I am trying to help fighters with that, with their merchandise line, with getting involved with, I've been in real estate, and real estate is the number one way for anybody in this country to come up with any kind of wealth. Most of the wealth in this country and these billionaires, they all started with real estate, in their
Right.
portfolio. So I try to do as much as I can. One fighter in general that we've talked about doing that is David Benavidez. And that young guy has already bought 3 houses. He's not out there
Hmm.
buying Bugattis and wasting it on stuff. He has 3 houses, looking to buy 2 more. And that way, when he's done fighting, he'll have a few $1,000,000 in property. And
Right.
that's just stuff that a lot of fighters really, at the young age, don't really see or understand. So we're doing our best.
Okay. Well, that's great. And as we know, you don't really have a pension plan when you're a boxer, so you've got to figure it out for yourself. That's very good.
And it's funny that you say that because I actually tried to start a pension plan, a pension plan for these guys. We called it PPF, Professional Pension Fund, and we tried to do a future capabilities earnings, which is you go out and say, okay, X boxer is going to make X amount of money in 10 years, life insurance policy, cash it out, pay yourself back on an annuity basis. But we even tried to go through Lloyd's of London, who has insured Michael Buffer's vocal cords, J Lo's butt, and some other
Right.
crazy
Right.
stuff.
All kinds of
But they
crazy stuff.
wouldn't
Yeah.
they wouldn't touch the boxers because of the severity of one punch could kill
Right.
them. So in other words, these guys really have to be smart and start doing other things. They can buy their own insurance policies out on their own. They can do their life insurance policies out on their own. They can do real estate. I mean, there's so many things these guys can do, and I hope that in the future we can have more classes, more network with the boxers, network functions to be able to say, look, guys, the NFL does it, the NBA does it, Major
Right.
League Baseball does it. They have their own guys that take care of that. And one guy that people don't really understand that helps their fighters is Al Heyman. That guy takes part of their purses and invests it for it. I've never heard of anything like that. That's why these guys like Chris Arreola, who've been fighting for PBC, and Adrian Broner, these guys get money taken from their checks, but they're investing in good stuff. And by the time
Right.
they're done fighting, they won't need any money anymore. So
Right. Right.
shout out to those guys for sure.
Well, and that's the important thing that we're understanding that it's a business as well. And I think sometimes as just the layperson, we say, hey, this is a great sport. I want to see guys beating the crap out of each other. But we forget they're just people that have to move on and move forward.
That is correct.
Now, let me ask you one last thing. What
Sure.
was, or have you had yet, that card where you went, man, I can't believe I'm doing this? Do you get a chance to sit back and get
yeah.
into it?
Absolutely. There's three of them. The first one was David Benavidez versus Ronald Gavril. It was my first
Oh, yeah.
world title fight at the Hard Rock in Vegas. Jimmy Lennon actually had a card in Europe that he couldn't get out of. So they called me and said, hey, would you like to do the show? And I said, sure. What is it? He says the WBC Super Middleweight Championship, David Benavidez and Ronald Gavril. What's really special about that is that David is actually like my little brother. I grew up with him here in Phoenix. He actually lived like 3 miles from me. He was 270 pounds back then. I knew him since he was a kid. And for him to fight his first title fight and me announce that fight together, was something unbelievably special, and that's probably going to hold up there for forever. The second one was when I got to go with Floyd to Japan to announce when he fought Tenshin. That was unbelievable, man. We walked into a 60,000 seat arena, and it was full to the rafters. The guys had been there since 8 o'clock in the morning. They stayed there the whole day just to wait for Floyd and Tenshin. They had 2 cards that night, one at 8 and it ended at 2. They took a break. They started at 4 and it went till midnight. And it was the most unbelievable 48 hours that I had been involved with in sports. I'm sitting there looking up. You know, I know there's a million eyes all over the world watching. I look over and Floyd's behind me and I'm like, holy, this is crazy. Like, what am I doing in here, man? You know, because, you know, Kenny Bayless, the referee, has become a good friend of mine as well. And I remember we went to Pacquiao de la Hoya as a fan, and I was embarrassed and afraid to ask him for his autograph because, you know, men aren't supposed to do that. And I did for his picture anyway. You know, you're supposed to be cool and not ask, you know, don't be scared, ask for autograph. I got his picture and autograph, and now he's a friend of mine. It's crazy. And the last one was the first time I got to work with my hero, Jimmy Lennon. That was pretty special. I was nervous. I looked at him. I said, you have no idea. You know, I'm here because of you. I will open up for you anywhere in the world, even if I'm 60 years old and you're 100, man, and you still want to announce, I will open up for you because you are the reason why I'm here. So those 3 will always stick to my mind and will always be important to me, no matter what comes from this career in the future. Those 3 will always mean everything to me because those are my firsts. So.
Ralph, that's fantastic, and I can see that actually, like especially with Benavidez, there's some emotion there, and I think people don't understand that we're dealing with people with emotional situations as well. So
yeah, you get caught up in it because you see these guys. Not only, you know, you get to go to the gym and see these guys train, and I try to put my money where my mouth is. I've actually tried to do a 6-week camp, you know, and and it's brutal. Like, these guys are in there working 12, 15, 20 rounds, and then they go run for 5 miles. Some guys can't even do 1 round on the heavy bag or 2 rounds, and they're all muscular, and they're supposed to be in big shape, these bodybuilders, and they can't even last 2 rounds in the gym, and it's unbelievable. So you take a personal interest. You realize they sacrifice everything, their family, jobs, careers. Some of these guys are living fight to fight, and like Shane Mosley, I got to do his title fight, and that was his last fight that he ever fought, and he put all of his personal capital into this fight for this title fight, and of course he came up short, but it led him to do other things, and his son's not fighting. But you just take a personal interest, and you realize that they're just like you and they want to be like you. And as far as being normal and human, they want to be human. They want to be able to go places and not have 1,000 people attack them, even though it's great. They want to be just like normal individuals sometimes, and we forget that as fans, because we're fans first, man. You know, I'm still a fan. I show up and I still get, like, you know, I announced the craziest fight that I ever had where I was nervous, which it was weird because when I went to Japan I wasn't nervous, but it was Sergio Mora and Alfredo Angulo. It wasn't even on television.
Right.
It was just a regular off TV fight. I look over and I see Alfredo Angulo, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this dude fought Canelo. Like, I paid money to watch this.
To see him, right.
To watch both of them. I paid money to watch both of these guys fight, and yet I'm bringing them in the ring, introducing them, and that's the only time I've ever shook, man. I said, oh my God, why are you shaking, man? What's wrong with you? But we got through it, and it's, again, every card that I announce, whether there's 5 people in the crowd or 55,000, it's a blessing, and you know, we're very lucky to be in this industry and do what we do, man. So.
Well, Ralph, you know, we could do this all day, but I know you have stuff to do. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course, anytime.
We'll check back with you again, hopefully, and
absolutely,
and have a great day.
Absolutely, anytime you want me, I'm here.
Appreciate it.